Joey Brown. You know, the good old days that people are always talking about, there were some good things in those good old days. Most of the good memories was this, something many of you have never seen, a circus parade. This was the spectacular, oh, I guess today you'd call it a commercial, to let everyone in town know that the big top was being raised. And the everyday humdrum world would soon be transformed into one filled with exotic animals. Pretty girls filling pretty costumes, and that oh so daring young man on the flying trapeze. It was a wonderful world. I know because I had the good fortune to start my show business career in the circus. I was an aerialist, one of the 5 marvelous Ashtons. The marvelous was our own idea. Unfortunately, there hasn't been one of these circus parades for more years than some of us care to remember. So it was natural for the Joseph Schlitz Brewing Company, which had begun a series of community-wide celebrations of holidays, to decide to recreate this wonderful bit of Americana for Milwaukee's celebration of the 4th of July. These are the streets of Milwaukee on the morning of July 4th. In a matter of hours, they will be the site of the biggest circus parade held anywhere, anytime. But it takes a lot of work to bring a memory back to larger than life. And the Schlitz people joined hands with a team of experts at the Circus World Museum in nearby Baraboo. Wisconsin is known as the mother of circuses, having been the birthplace of more than 90 of them, including the biggest. Here at the museum, displays, models, pictures, and exhibits take the visitor back through the history of the circus. There's a handsome devil. They say I was the Rock Hudson of my day. Boy, those were the good old days. Director of the Circus World Museum, established in 1959, is Charles P. Fox, known to everyone as Chappie. Chappie and his chief craftsman, Ernest Zimmerly, will hold hundreds of meetings like this during the 6-month job of restoring over 24 circus wagons to their original beauty. Minute details are checked against photographs of the wagons, taken when the wagons were in their prime. Some of the wagons are so old that even photographs of them are rare collector's items. While Chappie and Ernie confer on work for the wagons, well into the restoration process, craftsmen begin the process for other wagons like this. The Beauty Tableau wagon, built over 70 years ago. First job is to get all the old paint off. When you do, you come to understand the beauty of the carvings. Those lovely ladies will adorn this wagon as soon as they get their turn in the beauty parlor. Does she or doesn't she? Only the man with the blowtorch knows for sure. 9 out of 10 Hollywood stars use this as their beauty secret. When the paint is removed, every detail on each wagon is sanded down, touched up, and repaired if necessary. This is the skyboard that runs along the top of the John Bull wagon in the background. When this lady came down with a rare shin disease, Ernie made her a new one. He's known as the Ben Casey of Baraboo. Look at some of the detail work on this wagon, built in 1903. Safety hasn't been overlooked. Brand new brakes have been installed. While Ernie primes the reconstructed Great Britain wagon for its final coats of paint, work goes on in other parts of town. Carl Robinson, who was making tent poles for Ringling Brothers about the time the John Bull wagon was originally being built, fashions a new tongue for a wagon. In Wilbur Deppy's machine shop, his Air Calliope, an exact model of a 1901 Ringling Brothers Calliope, begins to put on a bright new coat. You'll notice I called it Calliope. Don't let me get any of you small fry in trouble with your teachers, but in the world of the circus, Calliope is pronounced Calliope, not Calliope. Back in the museum workshop, Carl Bergner puts the finishing touches on a cage wagon's wheel. I wish my barber's hands were as steady as Cal's. As the pressure of time mounts, the tempo of the work increases. Cal's wife, Maida, comes in to lend an experienced hand. Cal and his wife run a sign painting business in Baraboo. If you want a sign painted, see Cal. You might tell him that Joe E. sent you. And so the restoration job is completed. Wagons from generous donors join other wagons found rotting in fields and old farm buildings and presenting their bright original faces to the world. Museum director Chappie Fox says that Schlitz has made an enormous contribution to Americana by paying for the restoration of these wagons. Not only have they enabled the museum to get 10 years worth of work done in just 6 months, but that work could be done now while members of this vanishing group of artists and craftsmen are still available. The wagons are loaded on flatbeds for the 125-mile trip to Milwaukee. While the winch supplies plenty of strength, a lot of human muscle is needed to guide the wagons up on the trailers. One false move and they'll all be standing knee-deep in 6 tons of circus wagon. But the fine Irish hand of Transportation Supervisor Eddie O'Brien and his expert team get the job done without any mishaps. 5 a.m. and the final stages of Operation 4th of July begin. The drivers get a final briefing. Officers of the Wisconsin State Highway Patrol and Sauk County Sheriff's Office have been assigned to escort the convoys down to Milwaukee. And we're on our way. From out of the morning mist and of a half-century ago come ghosts. Friendly ghosts that mean warm and wonderful memories. Ghosts that become more and more real as the sun moves higher in the Wisconsin sky. They become so real that soon it's time for some chow. Surprising the you-know-what out of some sleepy-eyed customers inside. The journey continues. Circus Wagon 54, where are you? At the city limits, the Milwaukee police pick up the convoy and escort it through the downtown district to the marshalling area. 5 days, convoys bring groups of the wagons to this area, where they are unloaded to the delight of crowds of spectators. Hundreds of magnificent horses from all over the United States and Canada begin to arrive at their new home. As do the next generation of famous American artists. The teams of horses are hitched to their respective wagons for trial runs. Everything seems to be working out just fine. And that's all to the good because the months of time for preparation and planning have run out. It's the 4th of July, a day in Old Milwaukee. Children participate in the traditional activities planned for them by parks. There are athletic events and competitions for decorating coaster wagons, doll carriages, whoops, and bicycles. Over at the brewery, Schlitz throws a huge old-fashioned picnic for 1,500 guests from all over the country. Forget the calories. It's a holiday. The host of A Day in Old Milwaukee, Schlitz President Robert Eli, and his gracious missus. Parade time is nearing, and some of the performers take their positions. Oh, isn't that a pretty pussycat? Behind bars, that is. Elephants, all present and accounted for, sir. Hi there. The 500,000 people line the 3.5-mile route which twists and turns through downtown. The hands of time turn back as we're on our way to a day in Old Milwaukee. Leading off is a cavalcade of antique automobiles. Of course, I'm much too young to remember any of them. That's the mayor of Milwaukee, the Honorable Henry Meyer, in a 1902 Rambler. I don't remember that car. It's old, way before my time, but I got the name here in my script. Uh-oh, trouble. Well, why don't they get a horse? Good. Help will be on its way. The senior senator from Wisconsin, William Proxmire, in a, well, let me see what it says here, a 1929 Packard. Isn't that a beauty? It's a, 1 minute, just a minute now, Marmon Wasp. America's first station wagon, a 1915 Ford. I remember when we had one. I think I'll stick to the script if you don't mind. This is it. Here we go. The start of the biggest circus parade ever. Milwaukee becomes the 4th of July capital of America. Mr. and Mrs. Eline accompany the parade marshal, John M. Kelly, founder of the Circus World Museum. Trumpeters and flag bearers precede the #1 bandwagon, the Lion and Mirror bandwagon, pulled by 8 Bay Clydesdales. It was built in 1880. Aboard is the Sauk County Circus Band. It is 23 feet long, 10 feet high, and weighs empty 5 tons. Belgians pulled this cage wagon, built in 1884 and donated to the museum by Walt Disney Productions. Everyone be quiet, you wake the tigers. Let sleeping tigers lie. The USIA tableau wagon, drawn by 4 gray Percherons. The wagon was built in 1903, and its carvings represent the various countries in Asia. It does not recognize Red China. A camel patrol from the Zor Shrine in Madison, Wisconsin, followed by riders on purebred Arabian horses. Relatively simple but nonetheless beautiful is this wagon, the Dragon and Mirror tableau. 6 matched Belgians draw this 1915 wagon. A wonderful display of horsemanship. Horsewomanship? Well, horseback riding. Mrs. George Borg. This Air Calliope is drawn by 6 midget mules. Another Walt Disney donation is this handsome cage wagon. It's just a baby as wagons go, having been built in the 1920s. 6 Clydesdales make up the team, and the tigers are awake. This is something like Oscar night. The Seashell Tableau wagon, donated by, may I have the envelope, please? Walt Disney Productions. 8 Belgians draw the Swan bandwagon. Built in 1907 and donated to the museum by, I'm not going to tell you. You just guess. 23 feet long, 10 feet high, and it weighs 5 tons. The Girl and Lion tableau, built in 1915 as a ticket wagon. It is pulled by 6 Clydesdales. It's 17 feet high, 11 feet long, and is a hefty 4 ton. Lloyd the Llama, a favorite performer up at the Circus World Museum. The France bandwagon, pulled by 6 gray Percherons. This, the #1 bandwagon, and the Asia wagon were all donated by Carson Perry Scott and Company of Chicago. You know what? With this being the first circus parade in so long, many people didn't know what to wear. 2 definite fashion trends were set. One was fur coats for men, and the other, hats. Here's our baby calliope, all shiny bright and full of music. It runs on a 6-pony power engine. The Cinderella float, like the old woman in the shoe which follows it, was built in 1884. After long careers both in Europe and America, they were abandoned on a farm in Missouri. Dedicated circus lovers found them and saw to it that they made their way to the museum. Called the Humane Society. Why is he making that tiny creature pull that big, heavy wagon? The Mother Goose tableau carries 2 Mouseketeers and their leader. Despite the passengers, this wagon was not donated by... Oh, here comes the Columbia Band wagon, built in 1897. 6 black Percherons make up the team. This is the first circus wagon brought to the museum from outside the state of Wisconsin. Built in 1903, this originally was a steam calliope wagon. Now it carries a uniphone, which is a sort of electrically operated xylophone. Our old girlfriends on the beauty tableau wagon are joined by some lovely live ones. Another Disney donation. The wagon, not the girls. The girls are from Schlitz, he said with gusto. Some of the Midwest's most important civic, industrial, and professional leaders don circus garb for a ride on the Mirror Tableau wagon, built in 1902. 8 Clydesdales pull the 6-ton Pawnee Bill bandwagon, built in 1903. It was donated to the museum by the family of the famous carnival owner, Bill Hames, as was the John Bull wagon. If you think this is good, you should see him do the twist. Did anyone see which way the masked man on the white horse went? Now, this is the kind of a transportation I remember. John Bull, resplendent against the Union Jack, thrills the crowds. Over 60 years old and still a showstopper. A 1920 wagon pulled by 4 Belgians without the Tigers. It weighs 1.5 tons and is 15 feet long and 11 feet high. These elephants, like the wild animals in the parade, come from Ringling Brothers. Performing in Milwaukee in conjunction with this celebration, you'll notice he's kneeling in the direction of Mr. Ed. The traditional closer for a circus parade, the big steam calliope. Built in 1903, this wagon, known as the America wagon, performs regularly up at the museum at Baraboo. The practical closer for a circus parade are these gentlemen. But there's still more to come. Mr. Forrest Tucker, a music man who does know the territory, leads off a display of musicianship and precision marching and drilling as bands and drum and bugle corps, color guards, and military units keep the eye filled with color and the ear filled with music. Band passes, an ocean of people falls in the line of march, then home for perhaps a picnic dinner, and down to the lakefront for a gigantic display to end this day, a truly special day, our country's birthday. As the last of the rocket's red glare fades into the night sky, this city looks forward to next year, when it celebrates a day in Old Milwaukee and becomes again America's 4th of July capital.